Hey guys, I'm Carl. Just going to show you guys some tricks and tips on board maintenance and how to prolong its life, such as cleaning your bearings, rotating your wheels and sanding down the edges of your board. What you're going to need is obviously a skate tool, some bearing lubricant, some methylated spirits, a bones bearing cleaner, but if you don't own one of these, then just a small container will suffice, and finally a sheet of sandpaper. What we're going to be covering first is sanding along the edges of your skateboard. This helps prevent chips occurring in the nose and tail of your deck. Perhaps if I had have sanded this skateboard down occasionally, this chip wouldn't have happened. It's a pretty simple process really. First of all, you locate a rough patch on the edge of the skateboard. Once you've found one, you should apply a reasonable amount of pressure and sand accordingly, like this. Once you've sanded the rough patch away, you'll find that the edge of the deck is much smoother. But be sure not to sand too much in one area, because you could find that your board has become misshaped. Now that we've got that taken care of, the next step is cleaning your bearings. What you want to do is find the right fitting on your skate tool and put it over your axle bolt. Then move the skate tool in an anti-clockwise direction to take your wheel off. As you take off each wheel, remember which axle it came from. Once you've taken it off, be sure to put your washer and axle nut back on the same axle. Then take off the other 3 wheels. As you take off your last wheel, make sure that you leave the axle bolt off on this one, because we're going to use this to take off your bearings. To get your bearing out of the wheel, simply hang the bearing over the axle like so, very shallow on the axle, and pull back. Once you've popped your bearing out, put it in your empty container. Do this for all your other wheels. Now that your last bearing is in the container, you can put your methylated spirits in. Once the bearings are completely submerged, if you have a lid, put it on the container now. Proceed to shake the bearings for about 30 seconds. When you're finished shaking, take the lid off, take each bearing out and place them on the table. You're going to need to leave about 15 minutes for drying time. Your bearings are now dry and ready for lubrication. What you do is flip the bearing over to the side that doesn't have a bearing shield. Then apply 2 drops of bearing lube into the bearing. After you've done this, spin the bearing around in your hand to make sure the lubrication goes around all of the bearing. Once all your bearings are lubed up, put the bearing over the axle and your wheel over the bearing and push down until you feel a popping sound. Then flip the wheel over, put the other bearing on the axle and do the exact same. Then do this for all your other bearings. Now that your bearings are in your wheels, you're ready to put them on. This is where rotating them comes into play. You want to put each wheel on the axle diagonally opposite from where it originally came from. This means that if this wheel came from here, it goes on this axle. And if this wheel came from up here, then it goes down on this axle. This means that your wheels can get even wear and last the longest time possible. It also helps if you have the graphic facing outwards to flip it inwards, which also allows it to wear evenly. It's now time to put your wheel back on. This is the reverse motion of how you took them off originally. Simply put the wheel on the axle, slip your washer on, and tighten up the nut in a clockwise motion. Once you've got your nuts on the axle, you have to make sure that you have enough room so that your wheel can spin freely and not move up and down too much.
If you have any troubles or further queries regarding board maintenance, in particular the topics covered today, make sure to direct them to the Board World forums.
Well guys, that's it from me. I hope you've learned something from this video. I'll catch you next time.